There are 14 things you must stop doing with your dog, and I know what you're thinking. I'd never do anything bad to my dog, but that is exactly why videos like this matter, because a lot of the things that affect dogs the most do not look cruel or dramatic at all. They look normal, they look harmless, they look like the kind of little everyday habits most owners do without even realizing the stress, bad behavior, health issues, or danger they can create over time. So in this video, we're breaking down the common dog owner mistakes people make all the time without thinking twice. And by the end, you might realize a few of the things you thought were no big deal are exactly what need to stop. Number 14, letting your dog eat random things off the ground. I know what some people think with this one. It was only a tiny bit. They do it so fast. It's probably nothing. And yes, sometimes your dog grabs something off the ground and seems completely fine. That is exactly why so many owners keep letting it slide. Because most of the time, nothing dramatic happens right there in front of you. But that is what makes this one so risky. It feels small, normal, and easy to brush off until one day it is not. Your dog spots something on the footpath, near a bin, under a park bench, or in the grass. And before you even register what is happening, it is already gone. Sometimes it is a dropped chip. Sometimes it is a bone. Sometimes it is something greasy, sharp, spoiled, toxic, or impossible to identify because your dog swallowed it too fast. And now you are left doing that horrible mental rewind, thinking, wait, what even was that? A lot of owners do not realize how often this actually happens. You are chatting, looking at your phone for 1 second, thinking about getting home, or just assuming your dog is sniffing normally, when really they are down there treating the ground like an all-you-can-eat buffet. And once a dog gets away with that often enough, they usually get better at it, faster, sneakier, more determined. So what starts as an occasional annoying habit can turn into a dog that is constantly scanning for the next thing to grab before you can stop them. The other problem is that so many dangerous things do not look dramatic at all. A cooked bone, chewing gum, chocolate, medication, raisins, fatty leftovers, something moldy, something sharp, or just random rubbish can all look like just a little something in the moment. But your dog does not know the difference between a safe treat and a bad decision off the pavement. That part is on us. So yes, I know what you're thinking. My dog only does it once in a while, but honestly, once in a while is enough. This is one of those habits that owners often allow without realizing how serious it could become. And it is definitely something you want to stop before one quick little grab turns into a very big problem. Number 13, rewarding bad behavior without noticing. This is one of those dog owner mistakes that sneaks in so easily because most people are not doing it on purpose. In fact, a lot of the time it comes from being loving, soft, or just wanting a bit of peace. Your dog jumps up and you laugh. They bark at you while you are eating, and eventually you hand over a tiny piece just to make it stop. They paw at you, whine, nudge your arm, or demand attention. And without really thinking about it, you give them exactly what they wanted. And just like that, you have taught them. That worked. I know what some people are thinking here. It's only once in a while. They're just excited. I don't mind it that much. And that is exactly how this one creeps up on people. Because in the moment, it feels small. It feels harmless. But to your dog, repetition matters. If something gets them attention, food, play, or a reaction often enough, they are likely to keep doing it. Not because they are naughty or manipulative, but because from their point of view, they have learned a very clear lesson. And honestly, this happens more than people realize. A dog jumps on guests because that is how they have learned to get a big response. A dog barks for food because sometimes it works. A dog pushes into your space, demands attention, or refuses to settle because you have accidentally trained them to believe persistence pays off. A lot of owners think the dog is just developing annoying habits out of nowhere, when really the dog has been quietly practicing a pattern that has been rewarded over and over again. The tricky part is that dogs do not always learn the lesson we think we are teaching. You may think you are being kind, calming them down, or keeping the peace. Your dog may be learning, jump more, bark more, push more, because eventually I get what I want. So this is one of those things you really do want to watch, because I bet loads of owners reward bad behavior without even realizing they are doing it. Number 12, turning into a weekend-only dog owner. This is one a lot of good dog owners do without even realizing it. During the week, life gets busy. You are tired, rushing, working, dealing with everything else, and your dog gets the quick version of you. A short walk, a fast toilet break, maybe a little play if there is time. Then the weekend comes and suddenly it is, right, let's make up for it. Big walk, big outing, big adventure, lots of excitement. And on the surface, that sounds like you are doing something great for your dog. But here's the problem. Dogs do not always do well with that kind of stop-start lifestyle. Going from not much happening all week to a huge burst of exercise and stimulation on the weekend can be a lot on their body and their mind. It is a bit like expecting someone to sit around most of the week and then suddenly run a marathon because it is Saturday. Some dogs will push through it, because they are excited, because they love being with you, or because they do not know how to stop themselves. That does not mean it is actually good for them. And I know what people think with this one, but my dog loves it. Of course they do. Most dogs are not going to say, actually, I'd prefer a more balanced weekly schedule. They are going to throw themselves into the fun because they are dog. That is part of the problem. A lot of dogs will keep going long after they are tired, overstimulated, or starting to wear down. So the owner thinks, wow, they had the best day ever, when really the dog may just be running on excitement and adrenaline. What dogs usually do better with is consistency, a bit more balance, a bit more regular movement, regular play, regular attention, regular mental stimulation across the week instead of the bare minimum Monday to Friday theme park on Saturday approach. Because when your dog's whole week is dull and then suddenly intense, it can create frustration, exhaustion, and even injuries over time. So yes, giving your dog a big weekend sounds loving, but if the rest of the week is too empty, it can turn you into a weekend-only dog owner without you even noticing. And I bet more people do this than they realize. Number 11, missing the signs your dog is exhausted. This is one of those things people often do with good intentions. Your dog is still walking, still wagging, still kind of joining in, so you assume they are fine. And I know what some owners think here. If my dog was really tired, they'd stop. Not always. A lot of dogs do not just stop and announce they have had enough. They keep going because they are excited, because they want to stay with you, or because they have no idea how to pace themselves properly. That is what makes this one so easy to miss. Exhaustion in dogs does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it is slower walking. Sometimes it is heavier panting. Sometimes they start lagging slightly behind, lose interest in play, stop responding as quickly, or just look a bit less sharp than they did 10 minutes ago. But because it happens gradually, a lot of owners do not clock it straight away. They just keep going because technically the dog is still going. And honestly, I think a lot of people confuse excitement with energy. A dog can be hyped up, overstimulated, or running on pure adrenaline and still be getting tired underneath it all. So the owner thinks, wow, they are having the best time, when really the dog is starting to wear down and would probably benefit from a break long before things get obvious. This happens a lot on longer walks, beach trips, park days, and those big, fun outings where the dog gets carried away and the human does too. The hard part is that dogs do not always protect themselves well. Many will keep chasing, running, walking, and playing because they are in the moment. That means you have got to be the one paying attention before they hit the point of total exhaustion. Because once they are completely spent, overheated, sore, or struggling, you have already pushed too far. So yes, this is one a lot of loving owners do without realizing it. They are not trying to overdo it. They are just missing the quieter signs that their dog is tired before it turns into a bigger problem. Number 10, taking them to the same boring places every time. This is one of those things a lot of owners do simply because it is easy. Same street, same block, same park, same little loop every day. And look, sometimes life is busy and you just need the quick, familiar walk. That is completely understandable, but if your dog's whole world starts becoming the exact same route over and over again, it can get pretty dull for them a lot faster than people realize. I know what some people think with this one. A walk is a walk. Not really. For humans, maybe. We think in terms of distance, steps, and getting it done. Dogs do not experience walks like that. For them, the walk is not just exercise. It is news, stimulation, problem-solving, scent work, and exploring the world. So when every outing is exactly the same, it can start to feel a bit like making them watch the same episode on repeat every single day. And the thing is, dogs thrive on novelty in small ways. A different street, a new smell, a change of pace, a patch of grass they have not investigated before, all of that matters more to them than people think. You do not need to turn every walk into some giant adventure, but changing things up now and then can make a huge difference to how engaged and mentally satisfied your dog feels. Sometimes even taking the same route backwards is enough to make it feel new to them. What makes this one relatable is that owners often assume their dog is fine because the dog still gets excited when the lead comes out. Of course they do. Most dogs are thrilled to get out at all. That does not mean the routine could not be better. A lot of dogs would benefit from a little more variety than people are giving them, and I bet plenty of owners do not even realize they have accidentally made their dog's world way smaller and more repetitive than it needs to be. Number 9, skipping an emergency recall. A lot of owners hear this and think, my dog already knows come. But an emergency recall is not the same thing as your normal everyday recall. This is for those awful, heart-dropping moments when your dog is heading toward a road, locking onto another dog, chasing something, or moving toward real danger, and you need them to turn around immediately. No hesitation. No pretending not to hear you. No, maybe after I sniff this first. And honestly, this is one of those things people do not think about properly until the moment they desperately need it. Because when life is calm, it is easy to assume your dog would come back if it really mattered. But dogs do not magically know that this time it is serious. If you use the same recall word for everything, and your dog has learned they can ignore it sometimes, then in the worst moment possible, you may find out that come here is not nearly strong enough. I know what some people think here. My dog stays close. My dog is usually good. I don't let them off lead much anyway. But accidents do not always arrive in neat little planned situations. Gates get left open, leads slip, a dog gets spooked, something exciting appears out of nowhere, and suddenly you are depending on training you never really put in place. The reason this one matters so much is because an emergency recall is not just another trick. It is a safety tool. It is the kind of thing you build separately, use carefully, and reward like crazy, so your dog learns that this one sound or word really matters. And I bet a lot of owners assume they have this covered when actually they have just got a regular recall that works when the world is calm and nothing tempting is happening. Number 8, feeding safe-looking human foods that are not safe. This is one of the biggest traps for dog owners because so many foods look harmless. A tiny bit of fruit, a little leftover from your plate, a bite of something while they are giving you that look. And I know what people think here. It's only a small amount. It's just food. Surely this one little piece won't matter. But with dogs, a lot of the foods that seem normal to us are exactly the ones that can cause real problems. The tricky part is that dogs do not know the difference between a safe treat and something their body cannot handle. Grapes, raisins, chocolate, onions, garlic, xylitol, cooked bones, fatty scraps, certain nuts, dough, caffeine, and alcohol are the obvious examples people hear about. But even beyond the famous ones, there are loads of foods owners casually hand over because they sound innocent. That is what makes this so relatable. A lot of people are not being reckless. They are just assuming people food and dog-safe food overlap more than they really do. And honestly, this one often comes from love. You are eating, your dog is there, you want to include them, you want to be nice, you want to give them a little taste of what you are having. It feels generous, it feels harmless. But dogs are not tiny humans with fur. Their bodies process foods differently, and some of the things we eat without a second thought can upset their stomach, strain their system, or in some cases become genuinely dangerous. The bigger problem is that once you start doing it casually, it becomes a habit. Then your dog learns to expect food from your plate. You stop questioning what is safe, and little decisions start happening on autopilot. So this is one of those habits that a lot of owners do with the best intentions, without realizing that safe looking does not always mean safe at all. Number 7, forgetting water when it's hot. This is one of those things people usually do by accident, not because they do not care. You grab the lead, maybe your keys, maybe your phone, maybe a poo bag, and off you go. The walk itself feels like the main thing. Then halfway through, your dog is panting harder, slowing down, looking a bit uncomfortable, and suddenly you realize you brought everything except water. And I know what some people think with this one. It's only a short walk. They'll be fine until we get home. It's not that hot, but dogs can heat up quickly, especially on warm footpaths, sunny days, humid afternoons, or longer walks where excitement keeps them going. What feels manageable to you can feel a lot more intense to them, especially because they do not cool themselves the way we do. The tricky part is that plenty of dogs will just keep going. They are not going to stop and say, "Excuse me, I am getting too hot now." They will keep walking, keep sniffing, keep trying to keep up, because that is what dogs do. So owners often think everything is fine right up until the dog is clearly too hot, too thirsty, or too worn down. And by then, the walk has already become harder on them than it needed to be. This is why forgetting water is one of those small, easy mistakes that can matter more than people think, especially in warmer weather, with older dogs, puppies, thick-coated breeds, flat-faced breeds, or just dogs who get overly excited outdoors. Water is not some optional extra. It is part of making the outing safe. And I bet a lot of owners have had that moment of realizing halfway through a walk that they planned the trip around themselves, not around what their dog might actually need. Number 6, feeding them the same way at every age. This is one of those things a lot of owners do because it feels easier and more consistent. You find a food your dog likes, they seem fine on it, and you just keep going. Same food, same amount, same routine. And I get why people do that. Once something works, it is tempting to think, right, problem solved. But dogs do not stay the same, and what works for one stage of life may not be what their body needs later on. I know what some people are probably thinking here, but my dog still eats it. Yes, and most dogs would happily keep eating the same thing forever if you let them. That is not the point. The point is that puppies, adult dogs, and older dogs all have different needs. And even within those stages, activity level, weight, health, breed, and age all start changing what is right for them. So feeding them exactly the same way year after year can become one of those habits that feels normal but quietly stops being ideal. And honestly, this is easy to miss because the change is slow. Your dog does not suddenly wake up and announce, I now require a different balance of nutrients. It happens gradually. Maybe they are not burning as much energy anymore. Maybe their joints need more support. Maybe they are putting on weight more easily. Maybe their stomach gets more sensitive. Maybe their body just is not handling food the way it used to. Those little shifts can creep up on people, especially when the dog still seems eager at mealtime. What makes this one relatable is that owners often assume feeding is just about filling the bowl. If the dog is eating, the dog is fine. But feeding is not just about keeping them full. It is about supporting the stage of life they are actually in right now, not the one they were in 2 or 3 years ago. And I bet a lot of owners have kept their dog on the exact same food and exact same portions for way longer than they should have, simply because it never occurred to them that still eating it is not the same thing as still thriving on it. Number 5, rushing on after a bad dog interaction. This is one a lot of owners do without even realizing it matters. Your dog has an awkward moment with another dog, maybe a tense sniff, a snap, too much excitement, too much barking, or just one of those encounters that clearly does not go well. And what do most people do? They just keep walking, maybe a bit flustered, maybe a bit embarrassed, maybe just relieved it is over, but your dog does not always move on as fast as you do. I know what people think with this one. It's done now. Let's just get away from that dog. My dog needs to get over it. And yes, sometimes putting distance between dogs is the right call, but what owners often miss is that the dog's body may still be full of adrenaline, tension, and stress, even after the other dog is gone. So if you just march straight on like nothing happened, your dog may still be carrying all that emotion into the next part of the walk. That is why some dogs seem to unravel after one bad moment. The next dog gets a bigger reaction. The next sound sets them off. The next little thing pushes them over the edge. And the owner thinks, what is wrong with them today? When really the first interaction may have loaded them up and they never got the chance to properly settle again. What looked like one quick bad moment can actually throw off the rest of the outing. And honestly, I think this is one of those mistakes people make because they are focused on the situation, not the recovery. They are thinking about getting away, getting home, or getting past the awkwardness, while the dog is still busy processing what just happened. So yes, a lot of owners rush on after a bad dog interaction without realizing their dog may need a pause, a reset, and a little time to calm down before carrying on. Number 4, missing the signs your dog is sad or stressed. This is one a lot of owners miss because they are waiting for something obvious. They think if their dog is really unhappy, it will be dramatic. They will stop eating, destroy the house, make a huge fuss, or do something that clearly screams, I'm not okay. But a lot of dogs are much quieter than that. Stress and sadness can show up in small ways that are really easy to brush off if you do not know what you are looking at. I know what some people think here. My dog seems fine. They're just tired. That's just how they are. And sometimes that is true, but sometimes what looks like tiredness, clinginess, hiding away, licking too much, sleeping more, losing interest in play, acting a bit flat, or just seeming slightly off, is your dog trying to tell you something is not right. The problem is, because the change is often gradual, owners can live with it for days or weeks before it really clicks that something has shifted. And honestly, I think this one is especially relatable because people are busy and dogs cannot explain themselves. You are dealing with life, your dog is still eating enough, still going outside, still sort of acting normal, so it is easy to tell yourself everything is okay. But dogs do not always express emotional discomfort in big, dramatic ways. Sometimes it is just a change in energy, a change in enthusiasm, a change in how much they want to engage with the world around them. That is why this matters so much. If your dog suddenly seems less playful, more withdrawn, more needy, more restless, more licky, more sleepy, or just not quite like themselves, it is worth paying attention. Because I bet a lot of owners have looked at a dog who was quietly stressed or unhappy and thought, they're probably fine, when really the dog was showing signs all along, just not in the loud way people expect. Number 3, throwing sticks. This is one of those classic dog things people do without even questioning it, because it feels so normal. Dog sees stick, dog gets excited, human throws stick. Everyone thinks it is just harmless outdoor fun. It is almost built into people's idea of what having a dog looks like. And that is exactly why this one catches so many owners off guard, because it looks innocent right up until you think about what can actually go wrong. I know what some people are thinking here, but my dog loves sticks. Sure, a lot of dogs do. They also love chasing things at full speed without thinking twice. That does not automatically make it safe. The problem with sticks is that they are not made to be dog toys. They splinter, they break, they land awkwardly, they bounce unpredictably, and they can turn sharp very fast. So what feels like a simple game can go wrong in a split second. And honestly, this is one of those habits people keep doing because most of the time, nothing bad happens. The dog runs, grabs it, brings it back, all good. So you do it again and again and again. But then one day the stick lands upright, or the dog catches it awkwardly, or it breaks in their mouth, or they chew off bits you did not notice. That is the problem with usually fine habits. They build confidence right up until the moment they do not. What makes this one especially relatable is that owners often think the danger sounds dramatic until they really picture it. A dog sprinting flat out, eyes locked on a flying stick, not slowing down, not measuring the angle, just going for it. Suddenly, it does not feel like such a clever toy choice. And even after the throw, chewing sticks can still mean splinters, mouth injuries, choking, or bits going where they should not. So yes, I know it feels old school and harmless, but throwing sticks is one of those dog habits people really should stop normalizing. Because your dog does not know they are chasing something risky. They just know you threw it, and they trust it is safe. Number 2, making your home or routine harder on their body than it should be. This is one of those mistakes that usually does not come from one big dramatic thing. It comes from lots of little things owners stop noticing because they have become normal. Slippery floors, no proper place to rest, too much jumping on and off furniture, cold weather with no protection, long stretches of lying on hard surfaces. A routine that just quietly puts extra strain on your dog's joints, paws, back, or overall comfort day after day. And I know what some people think here. My house is fine. They've always done that. They seem used to it. But dogs getting used to something does not always mean it is good for them. A dog slipping slightly every time they turn a corner on tile, struggling a bit to get comfortable, or constantly landing hard off the couch may not make a big scene about it. They just keep living with it. And because it is not dramatic, owners often do not realize how much those little things can add up over time. This gets even more important with puppies, senior dogs, bigger breeds, and dogs with sore joints or mobility issues, but honestly, it matters for all dogs. A home should not just be safe in the obvious way, it should be comfortable for the way a dog actually moves through it. That means thinking about traction, warmth, rest, support, and whether your dog's everyday setup is helping their body or making life harder on it. What makes this one so relatable is that a lot of people assume care is mainly about food, walks, and love. And of course, those things matter. But sometimes a dog's body is being worn down by the boring, everyday setup around them, not by anything dramatic. So yes, this is one a lot of owners miss. They are not being uncaring. They just have not stopped to think that the home and routine their dog lives in every day might be making life physically harder than it needs to be. Number 1, assuming your dog will just put up with whatever you do. This is probably the biggest one of all because it sits underneath so many of the others. A lot of owners do things that make a dog uncomfortable, stressed, overwhelmed, bored, sore, confused, or just quietly unhappy. And because the dog does not make a huge dramatic fuss, the owner assumes it is fine. That is the trap. Dogs put up with a lot. They adapt, they tolerate, they keep going. And sometimes that ability to cope fools people into thinking there is no problem. I know what some people think here, but my dog never complains. Exactly. Your dog cannot sit you down and explain that the walks are too much, the routine is too repetitive, the floor is hard on their body, the house feels stressful, the food is not agreeing with them, or that they are tired, hot, sore, or emotionally flat. They just keep living in the version of life we give them. And because they are loyal and flexible, people often mistake tolerance for happiness. And honestly, I think this is one of the most relatable dog owner mistakes of all, because it does not come from not loving your dog. It comes from assuming love automatically means you are getting everything right. But love is not the same thing as noticing. A lot of people adore their dog and still miss what their dog actually needs, simply because the dog is not making it obvious enough for them. The dog is coping, so the owner thinks everything must be okay. That is why this point matters more than any single tip on the list. Because once you start thinking, not, will my dog put up with this, but is this actually good for my dog? Everything changes. You start noticing more. You start questioning more. You start seeing the difference between a dog who is managing and a dog who is really comfortable, really safe, really understood, and really thriving. So yes, dogs will put up with a lot from the people they love, probably more than they should have to. And that is exactly why it matters so much to pay attention to the little things before they become bigger things. Because the goal is not to have a dog that just copes with your habits. The goal is to have a dog whose life actually feels better because of the choices you make. And that is really the whole point of this video. A lot of these habits do not look cruel. They look normal. They look minor. They look like the kind of little things people do every day without thinking twice. But when you start seeing them through your dog's eyes, you realize just how much those small things can matter. So if even a few of these hit home, that is a good thing, because noticing it is the first step to doing better.